Hola, cage fighting connoisseurs. This is KidNativeBloodyElbow.com. Joined once again by Zane Simon for the sixth round UFC on Fox 23. Shevchenko versus Pena. Valentina Shevchenko threw a big wrench in the UFC's plans to have a Pena versus Nunes women's bantamweight title fight. Submitted Juliana Pena in the second round, 4 minutes 29 seconds, setting up a rematch to the UFC 196 bout. Zane, what do you make of this?
I'm really happy with the fight. Honestly, I kind of expected it to be a bit more of a obviously not the same matchup, but kind of a Holly Holm Valentina Shevchenko grind where Shevchenko did enough to consistently fluster Pena, but didn't ever hurt her or come close to finishing her. So
I was really surprised to see her get the submission on Pena, who I thought would have the submission edge.
Yeah, I think that was total shock. I don't think anyone out there was thinking that Pena would get subbed in this fight at all, and probably not.
She nearly got the tap against Valentina in the first round. Had her in a pretty good armbar.
Yeah, no, it was, and I think it just kind of speaks. There was a lot in this fight that kind of speaks to maybe some of the hubris that Pena has obviously carried with her throughout her UFC career, where she gets hit by the same foot sweep twice in a row without adjusting, and then Shevchenko throws up an arm bar and Pena shucks it off and goes right back into guard and gets caught by the exact same arm bar 10 seconds later.
And when it made me think of when her coach at the beginning of the card was interviewed and was dismissing the role of altitude fighting in Denver. And that just amazing. Either he was just bullshitting and they'd actually taken that into account, or they were completely dismissive of one of the biggest factors in fighting.
Yeah, they were dismissing it. I mean, this is the same coach who earlier in the week was, he gave an interview where he talked about how basically he will never let a fighter in his gym block a body punch or a leg kick because nobody should be getting dropped by a tummy punch or a Charlie horse. And
it's like the ghost of Cecil Peoples is coaching MMA.
He treats smart fighting and strategy like it's for sissies, and
here you go.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that Pena has, her striking never really improved at that gym ever for fight after fight.
Despite all the bar brawls she's been involved in with teammates.
She's got tons of experience outside the cage.
Yeah, so it's the end of a pretty good, 4-win UFC run for Pena, and including winning the Ultimate Fighter 18 bantamweight tournament. So you got to feel like this is where WME wanted things to go. They wanted to get their Ultimate Fighter winner in a title fight, and now they've got a rematch of a fight that wasn't a barn burner last time it happened.
Yeah, and I mean, Pena's a jerk. People don't like her, but she's a jerk. She is a good heel. She's a good fighter to build up in a title fight against a champ, and even if she gets beat, she can do the Sonnen thing and be somebody that people are just like, oh, I hate this dude, but he makes me want to tune in and watch him get beat up.
Yes, whereas Shevchenko is sweet and charming and from a faraway country, and who cares?
Amanda Nunes Shevchenko post-fight in the cage heat where they were talking back and forth at each other, and I'm just like, oh, I don't really care. I don't feel this at all. Even if she's angry, you don't ever see her and think, she's angry. She wants this fight.
Yeah,
it's that way.
She's not bringing the emotion in the ring. I do think in a 5-round fight, though, Shevchenko has a big advantage over Nunes. That she was pretty thoroughly dominated in the first fight, if I remember correctly. I think the second round of that fight was a 10-8 round for Nunes on some scorecards, but Shevchenko came back and won the third round.
Yep.
And I could see her, as long as she can survive the first 2 rounds, winning 3, 4, 5.
Nothing in Nunes' career, even since that fight, going all through her career, has ever shown that she is more than a 2-round fighter. We have since then, she's had 2 first-round wins. I think it's,
Yeah, we haven't seen her tested. And I think she has some chance to put Shevchenko away early, but not a great chance. I mean,
Shevchenko doesn't walk into a lot. She's a very smart fighter, a very patient fighter, a fighter who will pick her spots, and not the kind of fighter who's going to probably walk into a lot of big shots.
Yeah, and so after beating Pena and Holly Holm back to back, you got to think the WME brass is hating Valentina Shevchenko right now. I mean, they're just not cooperating with the promotional plans. And somebody else who's not cooperating, Jorge Masvidal, smoked Donald Cowboy Cerrone,
Yeah.
TKO, 1 minute of the second round. I knew this coming in because Masvidal is way slicker than Cerrone on the feet. And I knew Cerrone is dangerous enough and aggressive enough to force Masvidal to fight.
Yeah, that gave me some pause. I picked Cerrone and I was pretty sure of it, but I even myself said something the other night when I was doing a Sherdog Roundtable, and I was like, the thing is that Masvidal fights harder when he's losing and when he's pressured and when somebody's actually offering him something, and that could make him fight better in this fight. And one of the big things that you could see too when he was walking out, everybody was booing him, and he was drinking it up.
He was
loving it, and Masvidal's like his own worst enemy has always been his comfort. When he's happy and he thinks he's winning, he checks out.
Yeah, and coasts. But this made me think of the first time he appeared, which was in a Kimbo Slice video fighting one of Kimbo's proteges, and Masvidal was completely unflustered by going into I can't remember. It seemed like it was some kind of UPS dock or something, not a backyard, but he was completely unfazed by taking on a member of Kimbo's posse on Kimbo's camera crew. I mean, going into enemy territory is something he's been comfortable with from day one. So just a great performance, and I really am dying to see him against Tyrone Woodley or Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I would love to see how that fight played out.
Yeah, I'd love that. Even Robbie Lawler. If Lawler, I don't even know if Lawler necessarily would need to get a win back, but Masvidal versus Lawler would be an awesome fight.
That would be a really fun fight because Lawler would definitely push Masvidal. I think Masvidal is one of these guys who can coast when he's fighting top 20, top 15, even top 10 opposition, but no way going up into the top 5 is he going to be able to coast against that murderer's row of fighters that they have at the top of the UFC welterweight division.
It'll be interesting to see if he can stay on a run. I mean, he's much like Cerrone. He's a guy that it's really hard to trust when a big fight comes around or when he's got to get a win. He's inconsistent. He's never been a great finisher against elite competition, which actually kind of makes this knockout surprising. Masvidal, all of his wins in the UFC, with the exception of Cesar Ferreira and one other one, have been decisions. And so, it's just not. He's not a fighter that you immediately know is going to deliver a ton of great, like a finishing power or action or deliver in the big fight. But he's put on another run and he's showed that, this is probably the best performance of his career. So it's
I absolutely think so. And I mean, to me, it's like the biggest fight he's had in the past was a headliner against Benson Henderson. And Henderson is somebody whose entire game plan is built around stealing rounds and short selling damage. And that's got to be very frustrating for Masvidal and doesn't back him into a corner. That's exactly the kind of fight where you see Masvidal losing and being shocked that he lost the decision because he thought he was winning because he wasn't getting hurt and he felt he was scoring. Whereas these killers at the top of the welterweight division, he will not have those issues. They'll be bigger than him and they'll be coming for his head. Even Wonderboy Thompson will be looking for a knockout. And I see big things and I'm looking forward to that in a big way. I don't know that Masvidal can beat Lawler or Woodley or Thompson, but looking forward to seeing it. And really good performance and tough break for Cerrone.
Yeah, I mean, it's both. Cerrone's the kind of guy who can never really have a tough break because he's just going to fight next month, and he'll.
At some point that breaks down, but yeah. But I mean, this is the end of a 4-fight win streak for him, and undefeated at welterweight with 2 back-to-back, fight of the night bonuses, and then a big KO over Matt Brown at UFC 206. And this is as much momentum as we've seen Cerrone put together in the UFC since his big win streak that got him a lightweight title fight where he just got smoked by RDA.
Yeah, and I think the thing that makes this feel like a bigger deal is that Cerrone, it sounded like, had actually been talked into the idea that he wanted a title shot this time. Like when he was going on that run to RDA, he didn't want a title shot. He talked about it and said as much. He was just like, my coaches are telling me you have to wait and take this fight. I want to fight. That's what I want to do. I want to get back out there and fight. And this time he was talking like, yeah, I think I should contend for a belt. I want to be a top contender. I want to get that shot. And so it feels like a bigger deal. And he could certainly, if he wants to retire, he's got the career to retire on. But otherwise, it's hard not to see him just being a guy that's going to get right back out there in a month or two and take another fight, win another fight, take another fight, win another fight, take another fight, win another fight. Maybe some point start losing fights and hang him up, but I don't.
He's only 33, but he's got 11 years of cage mileage on him, and he has had some hard fights in that time. So and of his peers from WEC, I mean, he is doing way better than the guys, Vincent Henderson and Anthony Pettis, and the guys. Nate Diaz is probably the only rival of his whose career has exceeded his. And
Nate Diaz wasn't a WEC guy though; he was a tough guy. He came up.
Yeah, but he fought Cerrone. I was just looking through Cerrone's thing, and I mean that's the only guy out there that's had a better arc. I mean, even RDA basically crashed and burned after that. So, big fight though, fun fight. I thought. And the thing about this card was the main event just sailed by because it was all finishes and put a bit of the lull at the end of the Fox Sports 1 card completely out of my mind. I mean,
it's the nice thing about having a prelim card that people weren't all that excited about or hyped about is that even when it gets, it's a blessing and a curse. When it's exciting, you forget about that the moment it gets boring. Like the moment we had two boring fights, it was like this whole thing was just garbage, even though there were a few really exciting fights under it. And then when it's bad and you actually get good fights afterward, you forget about the bad fights too, because they're nobody. It's just nobody, or and Alvey Marquardt, Asunciao Sterling, they're not nobodies, but they're not who people are buying or who are showing up for.
No, definitely not. And then in the third fight, or the second fight on the Fox card, you had a heavyweight, Francis, and now I'm blanking on how to say his name, Ngannou. Say it right.
I just say Ngannou, but
Ngannou, that's right. Beats Arlovsky, Andrei Arlovsky, TKO, first round, minute 32. Ngannou looks mighty good. I mean, he's older. He's a 30-year-old, but in heavyweight, that counts as a young, red-hot prospect.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't mean anything. He's got no cage wear on him. He hasn't had a sporting career that's going to take years off his body. He was like living homeless and like going through all sorts of migration and all sorts of things like that. The hard life getting here, but it hasn't been a sporting life that's just going to like wear his joints out or anything like that.
Yeah, and it certainly has limited head trauma because he's been the one issuing the head trauma, not taking it. So yeah, he's definitely the best shot in the arm the UFC heavyweight division has had in some time. And what fights do you see coming up for this?
For Ngannou, I mean, now that he's won this fight, he's really got a pretty open book. Unfortunately, the heavyweight division's kind of totally booked up at the moment. Like Fabricio Verdum is one of the only guys without a booking who's either not suspended, injured, or booked right now in the top 15. The other guy I'd like to see him fight, though, if he can wait, if he's willing to wait, I'd love to see him fight Ben Rothwell.
Yeah, I think Rothwell is a much better step than Verdum. I think Verdum would be biting off. Ngannou maybe could do it, but that's biting off quite a lot, and I'm not sure he could shoot. I think Rothwell is a much a more appropriate challenge for him at this point in his career. But also, I don't think we have to worry about it because, if you ask Junior Dos Santos about Verdum, the guy ducks. The guy bobs. He weaves. He doesn't sign contracts, and there's nothing in it for Verdum to fight Ngannou right now.
Well, if you listen to Fabricio Verdum, though, Junior Dos Santos is gay, so really, it's all
Classy, yes.
Also, the winner of Travis Brown, Derek Lewis, would be...
Now, that would be a very natural. That makes a lot of sense, especially if it's Derek Lewis.
Yeah, especially if it's Derek Lewis. But either way, either of those would be good, strong tests of guys, all guys who have fought a lot at the heavyweight division and are all tough, really tough, and have spent a lot of time having reasonable success there.
Yeah, and are jack of all trades essentially, or not masters of any one particular skill set. Yeah. I mean, Ngannou, to me, looks to be getting by on amazing physical abilities more than mastery of any particular
He's
tactical.
taken to striking really naturally. He's still not a deep striker though, but he's very much taken to the fluidity of and timing of being in space and being able to hit someone. And it's great to see, especially against somebody. He's never faced anyone half as fast as Arlovsky, and he didn't have any trouble dealing with Arlovsky's hand speed. Didn't give him any pause at all. That's
No,
good.
no. But of course, Arlovsky's suspect chin is a big factor there. And, and those punches that he caught him with, those were big hooks. I'd say a 1-2. I mean, it was a left and a right, but they were not straight punches. They were both loopers.
No, but they were coming fast enough
Oh,
that
yeah.
I didn't even see it when they hit him.
No, I
They may
didn't
have
either.
been
It was a
wide, but
replay.
I blinked and I had to watch the replay to see what hit him. Ngannou's fast.
Yes, he is, and his arms are long. He's got some nice reach on him.
Yep.
And then the opener featherweight, Jason Knight beat Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres. Submission, second round, 4 minutes, 21 second, rear naked choke. Really dominant performance from Knight. And Caceres, for the second time in as many fights, is being used to get a new kid over.
Yeah, it's tough for Caceres. I mean, it's a good role for him from a purely, if you want to be like this really cold sports fan, it's like, oh yeah, Caceres puts on exciting fights. He's really inconsistent. He's not technically deficient anywhere. He's going to challenge kids while giving them an opportunity to win. He's a great opponent to get a kid like Knight over, but it sucks for Caceres, who's a pretty fun fighter and still has never managed to be a consistent performer in his career.
Yeah, no, I mean, but it's probably about as good as he's going to do. He's had 3 fight losing streaks before, and I think at this point he needs to look for a fight he can win and not take a big challenge. But I think he'll be back. And Jason Knight, though, looking good. And who did he challenge after he won that?
He challenged Duho Choi, which would be an awesome fight.
Korean Superboy. Yes, indeed. That would be
Pick
a
Diaz
heck
versus
of a
Korean
fight.
Superboy. Pick Diaz versus Korean Superboy.
Yes. Indeed. And now we get to the lull of the card with the Fox Sports 1 headliner, Smiling Sam Alvey. Wasn't doing a lot of smiling against Nate Marquardt. Unanimous decision, 29-28 on all 3 cards. Not a terrible fight, but a frustrating one. I feel like it was one of those fights where you had a southpaw against an orthodox fighter, and they never really got comfortable with that.
Yeah, Marquardt is notoriously uncomfortable against southpaws. And Sam Alvey's the kind of dude where because he KOs people and because people are charmed by his post-fight antics in ways that I really don't understand.
He's memorable. You got to hand that to him.
He's memorable, but I mostly for his full-body cringe-inducing speeches that he gives.
And the rictus smile as if he's been poisoned by the Joker.
Smile. But Alvey, because he gets these KOs every now and then, and because he delivers these memorable post-fight speeches, people kind of forget that all of his other fights are like this. Like, this is how his fights go. They are dull. They involve a lot of staring. He really has a very one-note punching game. He's not a very good clinch fighter. He's not a very good pressure fighter. And he's just, he's not going to wow you unless he's knocking somebody cold.
Yeah, and he tends to do that in wild exchanges, and Marquardt is way too smart to get sucked into that kind of stuff. Anytime it looked like it was heading that way, Marquardt did something to disrupt the rhythm,
or just stayed way out and didn't give him anything.
Yeah, or got the clinch. And then bantamweight Rafael Assunção beat Aljamain Sterling, split decision 29-28 on all 3 cards. 2 of them went for Assunção, 1 for Sterling. How do you have that one scored?
I scored it for Assunção. I thought I thought he won it. I thought he landed the better shots in the first 2 rounds. I think the only clear round was for Sterling in the third when he actually got patient, stopped jumping around, and stopped kicking all the time and put together a good kickboxing game and started picking Assunção apart. But it took him 2 rounds to do it.
Yeah, I think it's a really good learning experience for Sterling. And Assunção is a deceptively tough guy. He seems like he's not slow, but it seems like he lulls people into thinking that he's slow. And
yeah, he's got fast hands and slow feet. Like he's he's not playing a really dynamic game. He's not out there throwing a lot of spinning kicks or leaping in with a lot of shots. He's just very slowly using good, patient footwork to cut off the cage and throw good boxing combos. And it's also why he's not getting title shots. I mean, even when he wins and even when he goes on runs, even when he's the top contender, the UFC's kind of like, nobody likes watching you fight, dude.
Yeah, and he's got zero personality outside the cage. And
yeah. This win is not going to change that perception in any way, unfortunately.
No, and for Sterling, 2 losses in a row to Brian Caraway and now Rafael Sancao. Where's he go from here? He definitely needs a tune-up fight.
Yeah, they've got to be smart matchmaking him, because this almost feels like the UFC is kind of like, oh, you want to be paid like a top contender, huh? Well, we're going to keep putting you against every top contender we have, and if you don't beat them, sayonara.
Yeah, say hello to Scott Coker and Bellator.
Yeah,
they probably don't want you anyway.
Sterling's got to make changes, because what he showed in the 3rd round is good. He was patient. He started to stop jumping out of the way all the time. Sat down in front of Sancao, sat down on his punches. But top bantamweights are not going to give him the time to figure that out in the cage. He has to start developing that and developing it well, because he's not going to out wrestle the top of the division. And his footwork and his kicking heavy style are not made to win top level fights. No,
he definitely needs to take a close look at himself. Then you had welterweight Li Jingliang, the Leech, beat Bobby Nash, 2nd round KO, 4 minutes 45 seconds. This was a fun fight. I'm really becoming a fan of the Leech.
Yeah, he's slowly been growing on me. Conor Rivas has been pushing him on me for months now, and I've been slow to come on, but this was the selling point for me, and really starting to love his game. His boxing has tightened up a ton, even though he's not the best athlete out there. I mean, Nash obviously hit harder, was obviously the better athlete,
and more skilled wrestler by a long shot.
And more skilled wrestler, but Leech Jingliang he's more technical. His hands are fast, and he adapts really well as the fight goes on.
Yeah, he is a gritty kid, and you really feel like he's got a refuse to lose mentality. And Nash impressed in his UFC debut, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. Although getting knocked out like that's definitely going to set you back quite.
Yeah, he's got these huge long arms, like he's all arms, and it's given him a ton of faith in his boxing ability. That is, like, you can see why he hits hard.
Yeah, he hits hard, but
he's not a great boxer yet, and he loves to stand in the pocket and trade, and this is his wake-up call in the UFC. People aren't going to stand and let you do that. You can't just depend on being able to hit harder first. You have to actually play to your strengths, wrestle more, grapple more. He's a good grappler.
Yeah, really good grappler, and if he can mix that in, with a better phase shifting attack, I think he's got some potential. But will definitely be a gut check for him to come back from this tough loss in a fight he could have won.
Yeah,
he hurt the Leech a couple times, and then you had light heavyweight Jordan Johnson beat Luis Enrique da Silva, unanimous decision. Thoughts on that one? I've completely blanked at this point.
Really a good wrestling heavy dominant performance from Johnson, who just ran Frankenstein over. I mean, it's what you want to see out of a prospect announcing himself into the division, is that beating he comes in and faces a lower level light heavyweight and just smokes him.
Dominates.
Clear domination, and that's what you want out of a guy that could easily be top 10 in the next year or two.
Well, given the state of that division, yeah, that's absolutely. Then you had middleweight Eric Spicely beat Alessio Chirico, submission triangle choke, 2 minutes 14 seconds. Spicely, the spoiler in this one, Chirico was coming in with a little bit of hype and gets himself tapped by Spicely.
Yeah, Spicely's entering that Dan Kelly eternal underdog status, where I will probably never pick him to win a UFC fight, and he will probably win a lot because he's a really good grappler, and he knows that's all he wants to do. He's not out there trying to box people. He's not out there trying to get cute or finicky or anything like that. He's just like, let's find a way to get this to the ground, and if you play around with me there, I'll find a way to tap you, and that makes him dangerous.
And he's not one of these guys who's pure, like he's a submission guy, but he's looking to fuck you up on the ground. Those elbows he was throwing, he's not strictly looking to get a submission and not hurting. He's putting a hurt on people once he
Yeah.
gets them in hhis world, and it definitely seemed like Jericho did not know what hit him once he was down on the ground was Spicely. Then you had Marcos Rogerio de Lima beat Jeremy Kimball catchweight fight because de Lima missed the 205-pound light heavyweight limit. TKO 2 minutes 27 seconds. Kimball, a late substitute, had a week's notice. Slipped, got caught behind the ear with sort of a glancing punch, and that was that. De Lima was all over him once he was hurt and down.
Yeah, De Lima is still like I don't know that he'll ever be a much more technical fighter than he is right now, but he hits really hard. As long as his confidence is high, he's incredibly dangerous. It's just that his confidence can vanish in an instant.
Yeah. But, so not a ton to say about that one. Then in the UFC Fight Pass card, you had the flyweight Alexandre Pantoja beat Eric Shelton, split decision. Pretty good back and forth scrap.
Yeah, this was a great fight. I really thought that Shelton showed a lot of heart coming on strong, especially late in the fight in the third round. He was the guy who was leading the action when I really expected Pantoja to be the guy who was out there throwing and pressuring. I was glad to see Shelton was. It's a tough loss for Shelton, but Pantoja was a really tough debut fight for him. Pantoja's, he's been in the sport a while. He comes out of Novo now. He's got that swarming Muay Thai to aggressive grappling style that those Novo now guys got. And Pantoja's like an immediate borderline 15 kind of fighter at flyweight, and Shelton's the kind of guy
especially after they're cutting all these dudes. So,
yeah.
Which makes you wonder about their plans for the division. But yeah, so that was a good fight. And then the opener, lightweight Jason Gonzalez beat J.C. Cottrell in a fight that got moved up to the Fox Sports 1 card. First round Darce choke submission, 3 minutes, 54 seconds. I was impressed by Gonzalez's grappling. Yeah,
Gonzalez is a dangerous offensive fighter. He'll be a fun action fighter for the UFC. He's got no defense, but he's a lot of fun on offense. And he's huge for the division, which was the biggest thing against Cottrell, because Cottrell was able to get him down, but once he had him down, he could only hope to smother him. In the moment Cottrell tried to open up, Gonzalez was right out the back door, jumped on him, and subbed him out.
Yep, and a nice move. So, back to the main event. Shevchenko beats Pena, armbar submission in the second round. Totally surprised me. I did not expect. I thought if she was going to win, it was going to be by decision.
Yep.
Which led to me picking Pena. But second round, got the armbar. And like you said, Pena escaped the armbar and then dived right back in and fell into it again.
Here's the question, though. How much more likely do you think this win makes it that they push for a super fight against the winner of Holm Durandamy and Nunez before Shevchenko?
Amazingly high. I mean, that's the play. Yeah. That's the fight to book. That's what they need to do. I mean,
even with
Chris Cyborg out,
yeah,
if they want to have a marquee women's division, then Holly Holm's pretty much the blue chipper there if she can win any of these fights. Yeah. So she's the obvious one to push with Nunes. I mean, coming out and announcing her pending retirement. I mean, you couldn't get any dumber as a promotional move, like in her position. I don't think you beat Ronda Rousey, and the first thing you're talking about is how you're going to retire in 3 fights.
Yeah, it's the UFC. Their upper women's divisions, 135 and 145, are going to get real weird real quick. I think because the replacement talent is just not there, or like the marquee replacement talent. They've got fighters up there who can compete better. I mean, I think Shevchenko is a better class of fighter than a lot of the women who were there even 5 years ago, but she's not anywhere near as notable as Miesha Tate was, or as Julie Kedzie was, or as Ronda Rousey was, obviously hugely.
Yeah. I mean, they're falling off a cliff from Holly Holm, much less Ronda Rousey. And unlike, the last time we saw the women's division lose a big star, Gina Carano, she was superseded by Chris Cyborg, who was a completely fearsome and dominant fighter who wasn't, super charismatic or popular, but she was super dominant. And that kind of kept the division. This is just looking like a shit show coming. And I think women's strawweight, could become the marquee division for women's fight. It definitely seems like women's MMA is something that WME wants to push, and I think it's a logical thing. I think there's a lot of fan interest and a lot of appetite for more women's MMA, but it's going to need a big star to emerge. I'm just not seeing that at this point. And then in the co-main event, Jorge Masvidal just beat up Donald Cerrone in a really good 2-round fight. Gutsy performance from Cerrone, but to me, it was pretty clear within 6 or 7 exchanges that Masvidal was getting the edge on everyone.
Yeah, Masvidal definitely came out with the right approach. I thought Cerrone could stick and move outside, be creative, keep Masvidal guessing just enough to keep him tentative and make him kind of check down his aggression. But Masvidal knew what he was doing, and
yeah, he was. And when he went for the kill, working the body up against the fence, I mean, I was very happy Herb Dean. I thought Herb Dean stopped it fairly quickly. I thought it was totally appropriate, but I've seen fights go on longer.
Well, other than the fact that he stopped it the first time at the end of round 1,
Yes.
and Drake really stopped it, and then was like, "Oh, you know what? The bell rang at the same time too, so let's just do another round."
Yeah, that was kind of weird, and that probably explains why I was quick to stop it in the second round. So that's our show, and that was a pretty fun fight card, UFC on Fox 23. And then the next one coming up is Bermudez versus the Korean Zombie on February 4th. So that should be fun. Will be interesting to see what the Korean military has done to the Korean Zombie.
Indeed. Hopefully he's been able to get his rounds in while he's been out there doing whatever it was he was doing.
Yes, indeed. So that'll be fun. We'll have all the fixins, care, don't care, preview, MMA, vivisection, etc., etc. So subscribe to MMANation.com on YouTube. Subscribe to MMA Nation on iTunes. Get the audio without the ugly. Follow us on Twitter at @TheZaneSimon, @KidNate. Read us at BloodyElbow.com. And Eugene will have Knuckle Up tomorrow night. So adios, MMA aficionados. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Zane.
Thank you.